So we're here, we're talking about big bluefin fishing this week. If you missed our last video, we talked all about speed trolling. It's an excellent technique to find the fish or to get some bites maybe when the wind isn't up. But if you talk to anyone who fishes big bluefin here in SoCal, they will tell you that the most effective way to catch those fish between 100 and 300 pounds is going to be sending a flying fish under a kite. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna talk about how to rig that flying fish harness, how to actually set up your flyer so that it looks presentable. And once you're out of the water, you can use this to catch yourself that fish of a lifetime. First thing we're gonna have here is heavy fluoro. This is 300-pound Seaguar. I know guys that use 400-pound. The two hooks, really big J hook for the front, like a 10-0 or 11-0, and then a strong treble for the back. This is a 5/0 5X strong Mustad, extremely strong hook. And that's gonna play a big role later on. Swivels, you're gonna want a strong snap swivel to connect to your main line. This is from Sampo. It's rated for 300 pound and you want something at least this size. And then for your actual harness, you connect them with a high quality barrel swivel like that, which allows you to substitute in or change out your rigs very quickly when you find that spot of biting fish. For the actual flyer, we'll get to that eventually, but all you really need is a couple skewers and some zip ties and you're gonna be good to go. First things, we're gonna put that barrel swivel on the front of our rig. So just like everything else, slide that guy in, double it back. Here you have just a little bit of tail and not too big of a loop here because you don't want it getting turned around on itself. Okay, and now this is basically your bite leader that's gonna separate your main line here from your big hook, and you don't want this being too long because especially with big fish, it's important to lay it out right on the surface of the water when you're trying to gaff it because you do not want to dig. And if this line is too long, you're gonna hit this little swivel here and you won't be able to bring that fish into the proper gaff range. So I would say 3 feet, 3.5 feet as max here. We're then gonna take our big old J hook, get another crimp. Now from the bottom of the J hook up, we're just gonna crimp this just like this so it's lying the correct position. And again, we're just going to come down so there's a small gap there, but not too big that it's able to kind of shift around. So this next part really depends on the size of your flyers. If you have those real small ones, you're gonna wanna make this back section a little bit shorter. If you have those bigger, like 14 to 16 inch flyers, you really just kind of base it on the size of your bait. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna do another crimp to this ring here. And what's important is that you keep your main line going up, and this is going to follow right along this back shank of the hook here. So we're gonna crimp this down, just like that. And we're going to kind of compare this. So we're going to slide it on, put it in line, and you can literally even just grab your flyer because this is going to be just about here. And you want this to be no farther than about this. So you see that kind of gap there? You want to try to reduce this little loop as much as you can without limiting yourself. So I'm going to make this just slightly shorter. So just like that, that is looking prime. I'm going to crimp this down here. Just like this, this is the basics of your flyer harness. This is pretty much all it is. You want strong connections at every part of this. Main line goes up. You got that basically an oversized halibut trap rig on the back. And now we can get into actually rigging the flyer. All right, so now this is how you're typically gonna get your flyer. It's all wrapped up in saran wrap like this. I let this thaw out in the refrigerator. If you were on the boat, typically just keep this in a bucket of seawater. And basically you just need them enough so that you can separate these wings. It doesn't need to be completely thawed. Keep in mind that you're gonna be fishing in swell and wind because this is when you're going to be deploying these. And if you have these wings too far out, a swell can then knock it off and will ruin your presentation. So you only want them at about a 45-degree angle like this. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our first skewer here. This is just a bamboo skewer, nothing special. And you're gonna look here just below that wing here, insert that skewer and go all the way through the bait. And what this is gonna allow you to do is create basically a shelf or something to connect these wings to. So you kind of bring it out just like this here, figure out where you want those wings to lie, something just like this. with another skewer, you're going to poke a hole in the membrane. Not too big, because you want this to actually connect to your flyer there. Take your first zip tie here. You're gonna go through that little hole you just made and around the skewer. And zip it tight. Make sure that's secure, because again, that is what's keeping that wing pinned out. You're gonna make sure you're at just about the same angle for your second. Again, make a little hole, just like so. Second zip tie, right through. Pin that guy outwards. Right above the wings. And we're gonna get a lot of meat here, because this is what's gonna be keeping the majority of the flyer on. And what we're going to then do is position our back hook. And there's two different ways I've seen people do this. The first way is to literally lie the first two barbs right along the fish's body here. Stick a zip tie underneath, and keeping it tight, just like this. We then go up and we just zip tie this right to the body. Now this allows for this hook to lie flat and to keep a very, very good connection. Now this works, it's super quick, it's super easy. The other way that I've learned to do this is that if you go right to this back fin here, you see this guy? You insert right along the bone and you stick that treble up. And now it's sitting vertically right on the flyer, just like this. Now, the advantage to having it like this is that a lot of the times this thing will be skipping and the fish tend to hit this back half of the bait. And when it is positioned up like this, especially in this lower half right above this fin, when they come up and swipe at the tail, I would say 7-8 times out of 10, they will also get at least one of these hook points with them. So both ways work great. This is my preferred method of doing it, having that treble stick right up, and just like that, this fish is ready to fly.